Here's something I've been wondering. When someone's trying to articulate their feelings, one often searches for the right word or right set of words to express an intuition which isn't precisely formed. So it's imprecise, let's say at the gut level, at an intuitive level. Sometimes we express different words aloud and we're trying to get to it. We do this often in therapy or when we're talking with a friend to try to get to the root of the issue. We say, no, that's not it. That's not why I'm upset with Jim, for example. And then maybe the friend says, are you upset because 2 years ago he snubbed you at the party? Then you say, oh, okay, that's it. Yes, that's it. So this obviously isn't just limited to that. It could also be sometimes when we're scrolling around on TV, we feel like I'm in the mood for some show, but I don't know what show it is. And then you find the show, you said, yes, I'm in the mood for that exact show. So what is happening here? It seems like we have something that's imprecise, and then somehow something explicit comes and we match it, but we matched it with something that was imprecise. So is the imprecise part of us actually precise? And how are we even able to do this matching?
That raises very interesting questions. I think what it leads to is that most of our mental life is unconscious and inaccessible to consciousness. This is opposed to various dogmas that are held in the philosophical literature. So, John Searle, for example, has argued that a necessary property of the mental is that you can bring it to consciousness. Well, unfortunately, our mental life is beyond the level of consciousness, just as we can't become conscious of the way our digestive system works. You know something about your digestive system when you have a stomach ache, but if you want to study how it works, and it is a major nervous system, kind of like the nervous system up here, you have to study it, as philosophers put it, from a third person point of view, from the outside. And the same is true of our mental life. We can only study it from the outside. We can't introspect into it. You can show this pretty clearly in the study of language. When you look closely at the nature of language, one of the, maybe the only area where we can study this clearly, maybe geometry, shapes, and so on, but to a much richer extent in language. When we look into it, we find that the best theories of language, hence the ones we tentatively accept on Putnam and Quine's grounds, though they didn't go to this conclusion, they rejected it. But if we accept their arguments, as I think we should, then we should tentatively accept the best explanatory theories of language. And those theories, contrary to their conclusions, tell us that there's a system of computation going on in the mind, which is producing internal thoughts, which then we struggle to articulate, but they're there inside. And the kinds of examples that are discussed here show it. We all see this all the time. When you're writing, for example, you write a sentence, you look at it and you say, no, that's not what I mean. Try something else, maybe
Right.
that's but closer. Uh, there's what we call inner speech. It's not inner speech, it's outer speech. What we call inner speech is externalized language, not what's going on inside. So you can think two sentences and you can ask, do they rhyme, for example? There's nothing in the internal system that has anything to do with that. So, in fact, what if you introspect, what comes to consciousness are fragments, bits and pieces of fragments. And amazingly, they come instantaneously in very complicated ways. So you walk into a room, you see a friend of yours sitting at the table working on his computer. You remember, oh, I wanted to tell him something. But then you notice that there's another guy sitting there uh, who would be offended if you said this. So you better say something else when you come over to him. Then you go over, maybe you say something. All of this happens in an instantaneously, huge amount of thinking going on. We're not conscious of it. You get little bits and fragments here and there, but it's all going on in everything we do. In the study of language, you can actually pinpoint it. I don't have time to do it here, but you can pinpoint things that are in the internal language which don't get expressed, but must be in the internal language, as we see from the way it works generally. Other consequences, best theory explanations again. So if we could overcome the methodological dualism that Quine was immersed in, and I'm afraid Putnam too very often, and accept their conclusions, look at the best theories that we have. If you can improve them, fine. Look at the best theories we have, accept their assumptions tentatively. When we do, we conclude, I think, what I just described. A lot of mental computation going on, bits and pieces of it reaching awareness, fragments usually, but so interpenetrated with what's conscious that you just can't study them separately. Study of consciousness is never going to get anywhere unless it integrates itself with a much richer study where we understand much more of the unconscious, inaccessible mental processes that are underway. They interpenetrate so closely you can't separate one from another. So I don't think consciousness studies are going to get very far unless they begin to integrate them into the rich, complex, inaccessible mental processes that are inaccessible to consciousness, is my opinion. Two problems with consciousness studies. One is the one I mentioned before, Russell's problem. The problem is matter, not consciousness. The second is this one. What's conscious can't be sensibly disentangled from what's unconscious and inaccessible. Disentangled is one of Hilary Putnam's favorite words, incidentally. A lot of his philosophical work is arguing that you can't disentangle things. This is one example, I think, not his example.